Again, I'm giving you a tour of the APA manual today. What I have found with a lot of students is that publication manuals like the APA or the MLA are used mostly for how to do a reference, how to refer to a book, how to refer to an article, a website, which is primarily its use. But there's so many great things that the APA manual has to offer, and I just wanted to give you a quick tour of some really great things that you can find outside of the references pages. So for the first chapter, it gives you information about just writing for behavioral and social sciences. You know, this is not reading that you're going to do, I know, when you're sipping your coffee at night or your tea at night, like you're curling up with a good book. But it does give you an overview of what APA is all about, what they expect their authors to be covering, what they expect their writers to write, and how to write in the field. So the first chapter, if you skim through it, is not too bad. Chapter 2, however, it starts to get a little bit juicy. It gives you a good manuscript structure and content. And what I'm showing you right here is a sample one experiment paper. And I like sample papers because it gives readers a model. It gives you a model to go off of. Are you going to have every element in every paper that you write in this model? Absolutely not. They've given you a supra model, so to speak. So you might not have an author's note, but it goes over how to have an author's note. For a shorter paper, a professor might not expect you to write an abstract, but there it again, it has the structure and how to do an abstract. So it's just a great place to look. And I don't know if you can see on closely on the recording here, but it does give you some tips along the way and shows you exactly where you can find those in the book. So, for example, using a semicolon to separate independent clauses not joined by a conjunction is 4.04, which is a grammar tip. We'll get to that a little bit later, but APA manual does have grammar and punctuation guidelines that are really great and can really set the bar for your academic writing standards. Chapter 3 kind of gets into that a little bit. It gets into writing clearly and concisely. And one of the great things, and everyone will use this, is that it gives you the level heads. So it shows you exactly how to do the headers and what the formatting of the headers need to be. And then it also gives you a little bit of a sample of what those headers look like. Now, as far as formatting those in Word, you can see my video on formatting a basic Word document to set up those headings to where it can turn into a table of contents. It's really cool. They also, in this chapter, cover seriation. So if you're doing a numbered or bulleted list, you can find out ways to do it in here. It talks about economy of expression, which is essentially, like I talked about in my introductory video, the economy of expression means writing tight, that you're writing, you know, just what you're essentially trying to say, not these lengthy, wordy sentences. APA is all about brevity and about getting what you need to say out there in a pretty simple way. Chapter 3 also covers bias. And, you know, one of the reasons that we in APA only refer to people by their last names and first initials is try to reduce the bias that we feel naturally when we see a name that might not be, let's say, Anglo-Saxon, that might, you know, we're reading research by a male or by a female. We have ideas about what males and females do. So there are great strides made in APA to try to reduce the bias that readers have. So this chapter, starting on page 71, kind of covers some tips of how to reduce bias by taking away gender-specific pronouns, by how to discuss someone's sexual orientation, how to eliminate markers of racial and ethnic identity that might be pejorative in nature, how to discuss age or disability in someone, and how to handle historical and interpretive inaccuracies. It also includes some grammar and usage, like I said a little bit earlier in the video. So it goes over, and some of these are covered in videos later, but some verb tenses, pronoun usage, what pronouns go with what. So two people equals they and their, one person equals he, her, individualized pronouns. Dangling modifiers and adverbs. So it just kind of goes over some basic grammar. And for those of us who haven't been in a grammar class for a long time, it can be a really great primer and a really great replacement to looking up lengthy websites or trying to search the web for the correct way to use and versus but, or both versus amongst. So really good tips there. Chapter 4 continues on that pattern and includes the mechanics of style. So this is if you write a period, if you use a period, 2 spaces or 1. Is there 1 space after a comma? When to use a comma? A list. It also, and this is something that many people have to look up, and this is a great kind of brief list here. Suffixes that do not require hyphens. So if it's, after effect, you don't have to do after hyphen effect. Or multinational, you can just say multinational as one word, not multi-national. So like great succinct place to have these lists of words and list of when to use a hyphen. In the same chapter, this is another great, I find that the APA manual goes a long way to give its users succinct places, one place to find exactly what you need for your writing. So here's a list of statistical abbreviations and symbols. Those of you who are writing quantitative research dissertations, or you're reporting on quantitative research, these are really important expressions that you need to have, and the list goes on for a good 4 pages here of all of the symbols that you need to report out on your research. Chapter 5 also continues on with how to report on research. This is probably one of the most important things that someone who is writing a quantitative or even a qualitative dissertation, it's so important in dissertation writing to have the APA tables formatting correctly. I know it's a source of extreme frustration for everyone. So here is a table that is annotated. So you can go through and you can read exactly what APA is looking for when they're asking you to do a table. And again, this is kind of a super table. You may do a table that doesn't have these subheadings, and they give you a bit of a variety of tables as examples. I've made a video on how to do an APA table in Microsoft Word, so you can also check that out. But this is my first place. This is where I go to guide my table making. But I know sometimes messing with Word, it can be just as frustrating as trying to figure out how many spaces to put in between your numbers or such. Chapter 5 also goes into how to display a figure. So a lot of us are using models or an image or something that is not a typed out table. So you are dropping a picture file into your research paper or into your dissertation, and how do you refer to that? Now, it's really important to know that APA makes a distinction between a table and a figure. So when you're writing your dissertation, let's say you're doing your table of contents, you've got a table of contents, then you'll have a table of tables, and you'll have a table of figures. So you'll have 3 separate tables that can point your readers to where these things are. So, and again, I've got another video that can show you how to insert a figure and create a table of figures in your writing using Microsoft Office. But here is a good spot to get some guidelines. And really, APA doesn't have too many guidelines on figures because I think its writers know that it's going to vary, the figures that you're dropping into your research, but they give you some generalized guidance, like make sure your figure is clear, right? That readers can see the contents that you're wanting to display. So if you're taking a picture file that's very small and you're trying to blow it up to a page size and it makes it very pixelated and blurry, you might not have what APA is looking for, and it may not benefit your readers. They're just seeing the basic idea of the table. So chapter 6 gets into kind of the bulk of what APA is about for most of us. It's citing and crediting sources. It goes beyond just how to do the references page, and I'm going to show you the references examples, but I am without any doubt that you have looked at those pages before. But you may not have read the area of chapter 6 that talks about quoting and paraphrasing. So this is a really unique skill, and I know that a lot of people struggle with how to paraphrase correctly, how to paraphrase without plagiarizing, how close are you getting to the actual author's words. Sometimes the author has put it in such a way that you're thinking, I can't say it any other way. But so the APA manual does give readers some guidelines on how to quote, how to paraphrase, and then most importantly, how to parenthetically cite. And really a lot of good guidance in these pages on that, including this really lovely table on how to basically have a basic citation of authors. So again, lots of succinct tables that the APA offers for readers. And again, chapter 7 has your references, examples, and it's really important for building your references page. And again, how to format a references page, please see my video on that. And this concludes the tour of the APA manual. I have a plug for the WKU Writing Center, and at the end of each of my videos, they have really great staff who can help you with your APA citation, help you with some formatting, and really give you some hands-on, one-on-one interaction and building your skills to do this. Thank you very much for listening.